WOCA.
Ocala.
Ocala, baby, what makes you look so good? Ocala, baby, what makes you look so good? Why don't you love me like I know you could?
5 minutes after 10 o'clock, it's time for Ocala Magazine Radio. Kelli Hart is in the studio to bring us the program. Kelli, of course, is the executive editor of Ocala Magazine, a writer for the magazine, a writer anyway, even if she wasn't with the magazine, and an artist. Beautiful lady, and how you doing?
I am fantastic. How are you?
Pretty good. It's Father's Day weekend.
It sure
Father's
is.
Day weekend. He's checking out your picture on here.
Oh, I see. Okay.
See, when you were singing along with your opening song, it looked like you were lip syncing, and somebody who sees it for the first time said, "Wow, she's got a manly voice."
Yeah, well, maybe I do. I do have a raspy voice, I've been told, so,
Oh yeah. Do
okay.
you sing?
I like to sing.
So do you sing raspy?
I don't sing.
Do you have a Janis Joplin delivery? No.
Like Joan Jett more. I like
Joan Jett
yeah,
delivery.
That's probably closer to accurate.
That's not a bad delivery.
Yeah, it's not bad. I know my range, and so I stay there.
So do you love rock and roll?
I do love rock and roll.
Put another dime?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, I love it. I like to sing. It's fun. I don't want to pursue it. I would never pursue it. Not that good, but man, I sure get wowed by someone that can. It almost gives me like goosebumps on my arms because it's such an amazing gift to be able to have. But
it is.
Yeah. I'll stick to writing and I'll let other people do singing. But it would be pretty cool to write lyrics. Now that would be something I would venture out to try.
You should give it a shot.
So who knows? Maybe I'll try something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's Father's Day weekend, so of course that's always exciting. For me especially because I'm very close with my dad, and we always make family plans for Father's Day. So I'm looking forward to it.
And what are your plans? Can we ask? Can we pry?
Sure. So we're going to go to church, as a family on Sunday, which we try to do on Mother's Day and Father's Day. Some of us, like my sister and brother-in-law, go to one church with their girls, and then I go to a different church, and sometimes my mom and dad will try to bounce back and forth between the two to kind of share time with us on Sunday morning. So we're going to all try to go to church together and then go over to my sister's and everybody bring a dish and just spend the day together, which is to me is the perfect day.
And I love the fact that you have a good relationship with your father. I just think that's a great thing.
Oh, it's fantastic.
And with both parents. I'm not just saying dad, but because it's Father's Day, we're focusing on fathers. So
well, I can tell you, growing up, I was oblivious to the idea of broken families and blended families and friends that didn't know their father and things. And
right.
As you get older, of course, and you just.
So your dad had a good relationship with his dad?
He did. My dad came from a broken family, and so there was a time where it was a rough patch for my dad and my grandfather, but my great-grandfather stepped in. So there was a lot of interaction between he and my father, and so he was surrounded by a great male role model, which I believe influenced him to be the amazing father that he is.
Tell us a little bit about your dad. What was his job?
Okay, so my dad is from Ocala and born in 1955. So he went to Ocala High School, which then became, the Vanguard Forest split and ventured off to Vanguard.
And which building was it? Was it the Forest High School building or the Vanguard High School building?
It was the Vanguard High School building.
Okay, so what we know as Vanguard used to be Ocala High School?
Well, no, what we used to know as Forest, I believe, was Ocala High School. And then they built Vanguard. And I think depending on I don't know what the dividing line was at that time, but he ended up going over to Vanguard. Okay. And so that's where he graduated and met my mom, and they fell in love, high school sweethearts. They've been married ever since like 1977 or something like that. So there was a family business. Fuquay Sawmill has been our family business for 80, 90 years or something crazy like that.
Oh, wow.
And so that's what he's done. That's what he has always done. And I guess.
Did you go there?
To the sawmill?
Did you ever work there?
I never worked there. I mean, there were a lot of times where I would go with my dad to work and ride the tractors and climb logs. And there's cow pastures, and we've had cows for years and years and years. And that's how we as a family would have meat all throughout the year.
Right,
We'd
right.
raise our own cattle and
Did you have a lot of
stuff like
scorpions
that.
in the wood? I've always heard that if you have logs laying around, there'll be scorpions.
Oh yeah, and
So you
rattlesnakes.
did? Oh,
and-
rattlesnakes.
and, yeah,
Oh, wow.
And brown recluse spiders.
Oh,
you
that's
know.
not good.
I know, it's very dangerous, and so it's so funny because my mom is so strict and cautious.
This is the tomboy in you? You've said
yes.
it a few times that you were a tomboy.
Yeah, I had a blast out there. I mean, I'd be covered in sawdust. It'd be in
Did you
my
have a
nose
magnifying
and-
glass? Did you burn any of them?
No, I never did that.
You never did?
No. I was always the one that wanted to save them, save the bugs,
okay.
put them, build a habitat. That was kind of my thing.
Are you an only child?
No, I have a younger sister.
A sister. Oh, that's right.
Yes,
You mentioned the sister.
a younger sister. So it was always a lot of fun for me to go and spend that time with my dad. Sometimes he'd let me answer the phone in the office. And,
Isn't that cool?
I would think that was a big deal to be able to answer a phone. And
So were the customers businesses or were the customers like the average person? Who would go to the sawmill?
well, the main clientele of the sawmill are people who are builders. So when they're building something somewhere and there's soft ground, they need dragline mats, which, it's basically, in layman's terms, you take a bunch of logs and you cut them square and bolt them together, and it makes almost what looks like a big raft.
Like a raft, okay.
Yeah.
And
so
what do they use them for?
They put the heavy equipment on these things as they're building because the heavy equipment has a tendency to sink into the ground.
I didn't know that.
So
do they still do this?
Oh yeah, to this day, there's not been a lot of advancements in how this works. So they still use the same method. So if they have soft ground, they'll create almost like a roadway or a path and decking so that these
I never knew
heavy
this.
equipment don't sink. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Now Robin has a memory of always going to the sawmill that your family owned
Sure.
because she was at Six Gun. So
Oh,
I
yeah.
guess Six Gun was a customer. They would use a lot of whatever you
Yes,
produced.
we've been around so long that when there were big events and shows, there's even some restaurants that they use actual wood. They do the smoked meats and things like that, and they'll get their wood from.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's horse farms that get their bedding.
And where do you get the wood from? Are there
all over
tree
all over the
farms?
place. There are places that
Around here?
most everything comes from
Somewhere else?
It's outsourced because the supplies have become more and more limited.
But there were some tree farms on, near Denellen and like, what is that road called? 40? Yeah, Highway 40.
like High School Road, is that what they call it out there?
That
I'm
one
not
too.
really sure.
Yeah.
Well, we deal with all hardwoods, so oaks and cedar and
Okay.
and things of that nature. Not so much pine. A lot of people will call and say, "Hey, I'm having some trees taken down," and don't really do so much of that because you never know what's been hammered into it at one time. It could be a yard sale sign or something.
So did your artistic, the part of you that is an artist, did you ever carve wood, like do wood carving?
I never carved it, but I would find remements of things and paint on it or
Oh, paint on it,
do,
okay.
you
So
know,
that was your
kind of
canvas.
manipulate it.
Wood was your
Yeah,
canvas.
Yeah, and to this day, that's what I work with. So whenever I paint something, it's
Some of the
wood, yeah.
artists you go to a museum and you'll see wood as the canvas. I mean, a lot, not just canvas apparently was something relatively expensive, and artists usually were not rich.
No, I'll go to Lowe's and I'll buy wood, sheets of wood, and have them cut it down to whatever canvas size I want.
Yeah.
And wire it, and that's what I use as my canvas.
Probably less likely to be damaged.
Yeah.
A canvas can be ripped.
And it's amazing because once you paint on it, then if you want to remove anything, you take sandpaper or, you can manipulate it a lot differently than if it's on canvas. It just depends on your preference. But yeah, I was always inspired when I was out there. Catching bugs and, mixing things and finding old coils and wires and wanting to make sculptures. And that to me growing up was what I did.
Wow. So how did your father meet your mother?
They both went to Vanguard. And he played football, and she was a cheerleader.
Okay.
So it was one of those, romantic stories.
Kind of a nice thing.
Yeah, and it's, it's awesome. They've been married.
Were they both? I know
so
you
long.
are religious.
Yes.
In whatever that means. We know what it means.
Sure.
But were your parents as younger people, or did your mom convert your father or
my
something?
My mother was raised in a very religious environment from the time she was born, and my father not so much. In fact, I don't think that he was saved until maybe his 20s or 30s, to be quite honest. I don't know exactly, but I do remember that it was later on. There wasn't much religious influence in his home growing up.
Do you know, I met a doctor yesterday, and his last name is Messiah.
Really?
Yeah. And I said to him, "You're the first Messiah I've ever met." And he, just a joke, and he says, well, it wasn't such a good name to have because he grew up in Egypt. He said in Egypt, it was because the Muslims didn't like him being Messiah. I said, well, look at my name, would you? I'm Hitler. It's like Whitler with a W. Hitler with a W.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So. Well, I can imagine that being rough. Absolutely.
Kelly, we have to take a break.
Okay, let's take a break.
We'll be right back with Kelli Hart in Ocala Magazine Radio after this.
The weather is brought to you by MyFWC.com. Safe boating is no accident. Sunny to partly cloudy today with a thunderstorm arriving in the afternoon inland, high of 91 to 96. Still a thunderstorm around this evening, otherwise partly cloudy tonight with a low of 73 to 76. Tomorrow and Sunday are going to stay the same, sunny to partly cloudy, with a shower thunderstorm spreading from near the coast to inland, high of 90 to 94 both days. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Maggie Johnson.
If you're anything like I was, the thought of getting older was the last thing on your mind. But here we are. For me, it started slowly. The lack of energy. Never being in the mood. And when I was, I could never perform at my best. I tried the pills and other treatments with minimal results, and all but given up on my sex life. Then, I found the doctors at New Male Medical Center. Wow, they made a new male out of me. Feel like I'm 25 again. I have renewed vigor, so much more energy, and no longer worry about my performance. New Male treated me like my situation was one of a kind, with a custom treatment plan that really works. I feel great. They can create one for you too. It does not matter if you suffer from low testosterone, erectile dysfunction, or just want to last longer. New Male will help you.
Call New Male Medical Center today at 352-404-4779. 352-404-4779. That's 352-404-4779. It will change your life. 352-404-4779.
Here's what you may have missed on the John Tesh Radio Show.
Fidgeting can make it easier to lose weight. Many couples think that once they're married, all their issues with in-laws will disappear, but Steinort says a marriage magnifies these problems, so if you're having family clashes with potential in-laws, it's best to resolve those issues before you get married. Just like couples can take out a loan for a house or a new car, there's been a huge surge in loan companies catering to wannabe parents.
Intelligence for your life on the John Tesh Radio Show. Don't miss this stuff.
Right on the southwestern corner of the square sits one of the finest dining establishments in Florida, Mark's Prime Steakhouse and Seafood Restaurant. Mark's offers big city dining amenities in a charming and small town setting. It's a rare treat to experience both the ambiance and the exquisite cuisine in a friendly atmosphere. Ocala's finest restaurant serves the finest beef, the freshest seafood, premium wines, and naturally fresh vegetables. From valet parking to splendid service, Mark's offers the complete package. Check it out today. Mark's Prime Seafood and Steakhouse Restaurant.
One of the most common questions those nearing retirement are asking, will I outlive my money? Retirement questions like these and many more will be answered every Saturday morning at 9 a.m. on Planning for a Better and Safer Retirement with hosts Francois and Julian Pozenet. Francois and Julian will help you put your retirement puzzle together. Catch Planning for a Better and Safer Retirement Saturdays at 9 a.m. on Ocala's News Talk, The Source 96.3 FM and 1370 AM.
All right, Kelli Hart is here, 18 minutes after 10 o'clock, getting to know a little bit about Kelli and Kelly's mom and dad. And with Father's Day, gives us an opportunity to ask some questions.
Yes, we're very, very excited. I mean, it's I'm very blessed. I am absolutely blessed, and I realize now as an adult person and a parent myself, just how blessed I am with the parents that I have. And not just how much they love my sister and I, but how much they love our children. I mean, I'm telling you, it's almost like we know how much they loved us growing up, but to see the love that they give to our children, it's just beyond measure. I mean, they are really spectacular grandparents, for sure.
You have such a beautiful show, and I love this segment so much. So I hate to soil it with the news, but isn't this story about this kid killing those 9 people such a horrible story? And can I just add something to that? Because don't you, I don't know the kid, and I'm not a psychiatrist, but it seems to me that the family life you're describing is the best preventative for that kind of a person being in this world. I don't know what his family was like, but I don't know.
Sure. Well, sure. And I think that that's one of the things with my psychology background. I've always been fascinated with mass murders, killers, and people of that nature, which is odd. But I think it's because I always want to try and better understand what was going on in their life that would allow them to be able to do such a behavior. You know, it's like if someone is very cheerful and joyful and giving, very few people will stop and try to analyze, I wonder why they're so cheerful and giving. You just kind of accept it. It's what it is. But really, there's a reason behind it.
Yeah.
Just as if there's a reason behind someone who is angry and bitter and violent and
do you
things
ever
of that
become
nature.
that way? Because I'm going to be honest with you about me. You know when and where? In the car. Because it feels like I'm surrounded by bullies. I'm surrounded by people who are too much of in a hurry. And it's like, I don't really enjoy driving in traffic anymore like I did when I was younger. On the open road, I'm fine.
Sure.
But I can find that I myself am like, you're an idiot. You're an idiot. Everybody's an idiot when I'm driving.
I think everybody has their boiling point. I think my boiling point is my ex-husband. I mean, he really knows what to do, and he seems to do it quite frequently to push buttons, or, it's almost just like, I'm going to be as impossible sometimes as I can. And then, he and I that is when I really, sometimes I'll get off the phone with him and I'm just like, oh my gosh, my heart is pounding and I'm sweating. I'm so angry. And, but I can drive and be fine, or I can, you know what I mean? So I guess everyone has their thing. And so, but it's good that you're aware of it. Just like, I think you should be aware, and it's coping. I mean, I think we all encounter mean people, bullies. Lord knows I've dealt with really devious, hard people. But I think what it comes down to is your coping skill. So if you're presented with those things and then you have no idea how to cope with those things, what are you left with? I mean, I was very fortunate growing up with parents that when I would get angry or mad about something, and which happened. I mean, I'm my grandfather in our German blood. I mean, we can go from 0 to 10.
That's anybody
pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But he. So I'm a lot like my grandfather. But they would escalate it. So they would say, Kelly, you don't act like this. Here's how you cope. Calm down, chill out, whatever. And did you have the lessons, whether it was directly or indirectly, regarding how you treat other people? I mean, obviously, this guy had a problem with black people. He went to their church and killed them. What a horrible thing. Yeah. But somewhere along the line, nobody taught him to respect other people. That comes from somewhere, and I don't think that it comes from sitting someone down and even telling them, here's how you treat people. Although Lily and I have that conversation. We have that conversation, but I think it just comes through example. I mean, my parents I never remember them sitting me down. Lily is growing up. I mean, the photos you posted recently, she went from the first time I met Lily was at a Kiss the Horse event with you. We were at Rondo's place, right? That was like 3 or 4 years ago. Yeah, and she was just a little tiny girl. Yeah. Now she's like, is she a teenager yet? No. She's 8. Wow, but she kind of has that teenager look. She's very tall and mature, and I know it's very scary. But we have these conversations. But, it's through example, too. I want, when Lily watches me interacting with people, for her to see that I am good and kind to people without having to sit down and say to her, be good and kind to people. That's the best way, yeah. My parents never sat me down and said, hey, here's how we feel about, black people, for example. I mean, it was just never really discussed. I just watched my parents love on my friends and people of all races and things of that nature. So there was never a part of me that thought, gosh, I think I'm supposed to not like black people. I never. But you wonder if this kid didn't have the exact opposite upbringing. Well, clearly there was something. There was something going on. And I have encountered children who have made comments that immediately after they made those comments, I knew they're learning this. Mm-hmm. They're learning this. They're watching and they're learning this. Sadly, they're going to become the adults that are not only going to mistreat people, but then be teaching those same values to our kids. So it was very sad. In fact, Wednesday night we were in church, and so Thursday morning my mom made a post about how, here we were in church exercising our freedom of religion and to praise God, and then, you read about something so tragic the next morning, and that could be anywhere. Yeah. And it was interesting, and kind of an interesting segue into this month's issue, because Keith Chartrand has written an article called State of Emergency, and of course it was written prior to this Charleston shooting, but kind of in response to some of the riots. Keith is a great writer. He is awesome. Yes, he's awesome. And he took this story, it was his idea, and he said, we see it in the news, but is Ocala prepared? Are we prepared for something so tragic? And so he interviewed our sheriff, and he interviewed our chief of police and our mayor, and it's a really great article, and it talks about how Ocala would be prepared, or are we prepared in the event that something so tragic happened here? And, after going through and reading it, it made me feel really confident. Not so much that we're oblivious to the idea it could happen here, because it could. I mean, all it takes is one person who feels like they have nothing to lose or maybe everything to gain by doing something very violent or foolish to have such a travesty. But I do feel like our small town is confident that we're doing all of the things necessary to try and prevent it. But if it happened, we're prepared to overcome it. And I thought it was a great idea on Keith's part to ask those questions, because we always think, well, Ocala's small, it'll never happen here. And we see in the news that it's happening.
Takes just one
nut.
It
happens everywhere. We'd like to think that Ocala is isolated from all the crazy lunatics, but we're not. We're sadly not. And I think media only amplifies the opportunities to get wicked thoughts, and
which is why I like this media, because it's always a very positive one, and yet negative seems to outweigh positive. They say the light will outdo the dark, but sometimes it's the dark that does the light.
Well, we live in a world where we love controversy, and we would certainly rather watch something on TV that's negative, that is dramatic, negative drama than a feel-good, or whatever. And so, that's what I love about Ocala Magazine. We do have feel-good stories because we do live in a feel-good city. We are full of positive people with some very touching stories. The Cobb family, I don't know if they've been on the radio or not, but the family that walked from California Disneyland to Orlando Disney World.
Okay, don't know.
They were at Mojo's the other night, and then I think it was Tuesday night.
How were their feet?
It's a long walk. We sent Chris out there to take some photos, and then ironically on Wednesday night they were at Meadowbrook Church, and so got to kind of reiterate their story. But they lost their daughter, and off the top of my head I cannot recall what they lost her to, but at 8 years old they lost her, and so they turned a tragedy into a platform and a message. And so they've been walking across the United States in honor of their daughter, and to keep her in remembrance, and also to encourage people, that when something bad happens, try to make it positive. And to me, that's really inspiring, because I have an 8-year-old daughter too, and the thought of losing her right now to something, I can't even imagine getting out of bed, much less walking across the nation. But there are different motivators, and to me, faith would be that motivator. And so you wonder, if something happened in Ocala, how would we react? But I have a really good feeling that our city we're pretty awesome, and I think that we would come together and work together for the good. So I definitely want people to pick up this month's issue and read the state of emergency story, because when you get done reading it, if nothing else, I think it will encourage you that our law enforcement isn't unrealistic. They realize things can happen, but they are absolutely prepared and feel very confident that we could survive something like this.
Just real quickly, remember in 2004 we had the hurricanes that came through, and we had a lot of people out of electricity, a lot of people wondering what's going on.
Right.
And of course, as radio hosts, we're like, well, what we do is so small compared to what law enforcement and firefighters and city workers do. Our job is so small and so insignificant.
Sure.
And we had really hardly any information that everybody else didn't also have, So it wasn't that the information was important. But you know what came back to us that made us feel good? Familiar voice. Because you're on the radio all the time, you become the familiar voice. So while you're home alone with no electricity, you got your little battery-operated radio, and there's a friend on the. So it's like, wow, God put us in a place where we didn't have to be geniuses. We just have to be here.
Sure.
So.
And I think we often discount, we're not heroes, we're not saving lives. But through the power of media, I think that we do have a platform. And I think there are a lot of times we touch people in a way that doesn't necessarily save their life per se, but it definitely makes that difference. So I think we should.
It's kind of like being a friend. Just be there.
Absolutely. Well, and Ocala Magazine loves being Ocala's friend. I feel we've definitely tried to do that, and we want to encourage everyone to like us on Facebook. We've started giving sneak previews of our 40 Under 40 that will be out in our July issue, but we've started revealing some of those. So make sure you like us so you can keep up, and please grab the June issue of Ocala Magazine.
Thank you, Kelly. Have a great weekend.
Thanks,
Good Father's Day.
Thanks.
See you next week.
You too.
We'll be right back.
I don't care about no rockin' and jive. Just wanna be your man tonight. Ocala, baby.
Radio, I'm Lillian Wu. Fox News confirms the suspect in the South Carolina church shooting did confess to the shooting when questioned.